Hey guys, it's 2024, but think back, remember with me, to our time during COVID. Our favorite time of our lives, right? Like some of us spent all day, every month, playing board games with our family. Some of you guys took advantage of the super cheap flights and were just traveling all over the country. I know I got to do that a couple times. Who here got a job during COVID? Jobs were in high demand. Some people were like, I can't find a job. Other companies were like, please, we will pay you double the going rate. Man, do you guys remember when toilet paper was like unable to be found anywhere? People were stockpiling toilet paper thinking that that's the thing that's going to ruin their lives the most during COVID. Well, there was a couple of other things that were in short supply during COVID, and one of them, naturally, you would say, is cleaning chemicals. Every single home, every single business, barbershop, restaurant, office, every single person was trying to get their hands on cleaning chemicals. And my dad happens to be a salesman of cleaning chemicals. So this was just a good time for him. And it was kind of fun being there with him. You know, I'm at the house, he's at the house. I get to see him work day in and day out. And man, he would call up every business he could. He would call up hotels, hospitals, schools. He would drive down to the Shamrock Farms treatment facility where they make the milk, or however they do it with the cows. And he would just go and he would call them up and say, hey, look, I've got cleaning supplies. If you guys want them or need them, if you're going to order it from anywhere else, it's going to take 2 months minimum. I can get it to you in 4 weeks, no problem. People were taking him up on the offer left and right. And he even got an order from the U.S. Air Force. And if you know anything about the military, anything about the government, there's one rule for everybody, and then there's another rule for the government or the military. And so the Air Force is like, hey, I hear you say 4 weeks. What can we do better than that? And my dad's like, okay, what about like 2 weeks, man? I'll see what I can do, but that's going to be like twice as better as anybody else. And they're like, we need it here in 3 days. And so my dad's like, hey, I got to make it work. And so me and my dad, we go, we're living in Phoenix at the time, we're living in Chandler. We go to Phoenix to this warehouse, and we rent a truck. So we get this Penske truck. We don't have any license to drive it, but they just gave it to us. I think it's a small enough size where we can do that. And then we go to this loading dock where there's just 18-wheelers and these like big burly truck guys just loading pallets into their 18-wheelers. And then me and my dad roll up in this Penske truck, no idea what we're doing. And we're just asking guys, hey, can you move that forklift, that pallet over there into the back of this truck? And so we get in this truck, we got all the cleaning chemicals, we drive from Phoenix all the way down I-10 to the Air Force Base here in Tucson. And man, we get to the front gate, and I'm like, Dad, what do we say? He's like, hey, we're just here to give cleaning supplies. And I'm like, I feel like that's like what a drug dealer would say if they're trying to put up a front. And so sure enough, like we're going through, they got German Shepherds like sniffing all around the car. They're saying, hey, can we get your ID again? Like they're taking our names. And we get there, and the guy who checks us out, he's like this dude in street clothes, wearing sunglasses. He looks like a guns dealer. And he's like, you got the stuff? My dad's like, yeah, I got the stuff. I always make my time. And sure enough, we unload it. He just tells some guys, hey, go pick that up, move it. They just did as he said. And I didn't ask any questions. We got out of there, and I was like, Dad, we just did that. He was like, yeah, we did. That was awesome. And so, dude, COVID was a crazy time. Tons of fun stories with my family. And I just remember being a part of that with my dad was so fun. And I think about that time during COVID when he had the cleaning chemicals that everybody needed and that everybody wanted. And he just knew that, hey, people were missing something. And he wanted to initiate the process to get them what they needed. What is the need of society today? What is it, even on this campus, that brings hurt, that plagues this campus with something that's wrong? Like what is the need of society today? And what is the cure for this need in the world? Man, we see that you guys have lived here long enough. You guys are 20, 22 years old. You guys know that, man, this world, it's broken. There's some things in this world that aren't good. Like there's hate, there's violence, there's a heartbreak or two. That's never fun. You got corruption. You got stealing, people dealing with anxiety, depression. Man, this world, there's brokenness of it. And I got to wonder, what is the cure to this brokenness in the world? If this sickness of the world had a cure, what would you do if you knew it? Would you sit back and wait for people to ask you, hey, do you know what the cure is for this thing? Or would you go out of your way to tell anybody that you could, hey, I have the cure for this sickness in the world. Do you want to know? Anybody who would listen, would you just say, hey, I've got the sickness, I've got the cure for this sickness, this broken world, here it is. Here's the thing, leaders take initiative. Remember that in life, leaders take initiative. If you see a piece of trash on the floor during campus, man, a leader would say, hey, this is my campus. This is a reflection of me. I'm going to pick up that piece of trash. A business guy one time told me, hey, leaders, they pick up trash when they see it, and they put the grocery carts back in the parking lots. I don't know the last time you guys went to Safeway or Walmart. There's a lot of grocery carts out here in Tucson. Man, we need more leaders in this world. Leaders see someone hurting, and they go out of their way, and they take initiative to help them however they know they can do that. When someone decides to follow Jesus, they learn Jesus is the cure for this brokenness in the world. Many of us here do follow Jesus and know that he is the cure. My question for us tonight is, what are we to do with this crucial information? Tonight, we're going to look at a story from the life of Jesus, and he's going to show us how we're to initiate and bring this saving message to a broken world. But before we do that, I got a question for you guys. If you could give a 10-minute presentation on anything people could benefit from hearing, what would you present on? Talk with the people around you. I want to hear some of these. All right, let's bring it back. Hey, I want to hear some of these answers. What are some topics we're talking about? What are we presenting on? What we got? Gavin? The gym. Just gym. Who's Jim? Cold plunge. Yeah, get your testosterone up. Cold plunge. What's Brett, what we got? StuMo Run Club. Yeah, we got a bunch of runners in here. Some people getting up at 5:30, 6 o'clock. Brian, what we got? I got you in the back. What we got? Swimming. These one-word answers, I love it. Swimming. Just do it. Swim. Here we go. We're gonna go into the story now. All right. So this story takes place in the book of Luke, chapter 19. I'm just gonna start off, and it goes like this. He entered Jericho and was passing through. This is Jesus. And behold, there was a man named Zacchaeus. Yes, Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector and was rich. So a little background information as we start this story. At this time in history, the Jewish people are being ruled by the Roman Empire. I know everyone thinks about the Roman Empire. And so these Jewish people, they get ruled by the Roman Empire, and one of the ways that the Roman Empire oppresses them is they place heavy taxes on them. But they don't just do this using their own military. What they would do is they would choose a fellow Jewish guy and have him turn his back on his friends, his family, anybody that he ever knew or loved, and have this guy be the one to enforce a tax on his own people that burden them. So you can imagine what people in this community would think of a tax collector. This is a guy who pretty much sold his soul for money against everybody he ever loved. What they would do is they would tell the people, hey, instead of 25% tax on everything you make, it's actually going to be 40, and I'm going to keep the extra 15%, and the people can do anything about it. And so the fact that this Zacchaeus guy was a chief tax collector and was rich meant he'd been doing this for a while, and he was pretty good at ripping people off. This guy was hated in his community. This is like a modern-day parking cop, parking attendant. You guys see them on campus. Who here's gotten a parking ticket on campus? Yep. Hey, no shame. I may have gotten one this week. Come on, this morning. Yeah, it's no fun. Hey, are they necessary? Maybe. I don't know. I don't want them. But these people, it's like the modern day parking cop. Imagine if someone in here, your own friend that you have been boys with since freshman year, your roommate, said, hey, I'm going to work for the UA Parking and Transportation and just give you guys tickets. And anything above $50, I get to keep that money, so I'm just going to start ticketing people $100 every time and stashing money away. That is what this tax collector was like. I know, you guys have angry faces right now. That's how I'm feeling. That's who this guy was. Not a good start. Let's keep reading and learn a little bit more about Zacchaeus. So it says this next. And he was seeking to see who Jesus was, but on account of the crowd he could not, because he was small in stature. So real. So he ran on ahead and climbed up into a sycamore tree to see him, for he was about to pass that way. We learned two things about Zacchaeus. One, he was short. Short kings, okay? You guys can relate. Yes, shout out short kings. We love you guys. I like to say I'm 6 foot with socks on, okay? So if I don't have socks on, I kind of miss the cutoff. But with socks on, I'm 6 foot. Not that that's important. Anyway, the second thing about Zacchaeus is that he was seeking to see who Jesus was. It says that he climbed a tree so that he could see Jesus. When was the last time you saw a grown man climb a tree? Sober. Like, I know, hey, we live in Tucson. We got some crazy guys. You know, you walk down Greek Road, you never know what you're going to see on a Thursday night. But when was the last time you saw a grown man, a rich grown man, climb a tree in public while sober? Never. This guy, Zacchaeus, man, he was really seeking to see who Jesus was. And he's the least likely person to think. This is a guy who said, hey, anything to do with this culture, I'm out, and I'm just going to make as much money and be as powerful as I can be. But yet this is the guy who, if you look at his life, he's seeking to see who Jesus is. There's something that he's missing, and he wants to find it. There are people in your life seeking to know who Jesus is you would never expect. Do you believe that? There are people in your life seeking to know who Jesus is you would never expect. When I was in college, I was on the football team here at Arizona, and one of my good buddies, his name, I'll leave him nameless today, okay? We'll just call him 47. And 47, man, he was a funny guy, funny guy. He loved hanging with the fraternity guys. If you guys know anything about Pike, they're not on campus anymore. They were a little bit rowdy. Well, Pike actually told 47, hey, you're a little too wild for us, okay? Don't come by the house anymore. So this guy was a little wild. I feel like every day he was talking about a new girl he was talking to. I'm like, okay. He would always try to like make fun of guys, and especially when I started following Jesus and taking my faith seriously, this guy would make fun of me every time I told him I was going to StuMo. Every time I talked to him about it, man, he couldn't get behind it. He couldn't see where I was coming from. But man, I love this guy. This past fall, 2 years after we graduated, man, he comes to me. We're at the homecoming game. Always a good time to see the boys. And he goes, hey, dude, let me talk to you for a second. You know, he's still acting like the same, bravado guy like he is. But then he comes to the side. He's like, dude, I've actually been kind of changing my life a little bit. I'm not quite like all in crazy for Jesus like you. But yeah, I F with Jesus. Kid you not, that's what he said. You know what I said in that moment? I was like, I didn't say it out loud, but I was like, dude, actually I did say this. I was like, dude, that is awesome. I love that you F with Jesus. I think that's sweet. In my head, but man, it really brought joy to my heart. I'm like, this is a guy who was so against it. You would have never thought this is the guy who would be seeking to know who Jesus is. You guys have people like that in your own life right now. Man, let's look what Jesus says when he sees Zacchaeus up in this tree, this crazy little Zacchaeus. And when Jesus came to the place, he looked up and said to him, Zacchaeus, hurry and come down, for I must stay at your house today. Have you ever been so excited to tell someone something, you just can't hold it in? Like, you must tell them something. Man, my freshman year, I'm just telling stories from the football game. I promise I let it go. I don't hold on to it. I'm not a college hero. But I had a best buddy. We were fellow walk-ons together. His name was Stanley. And me and Stanley, man, we were in the dog days together. We were just skinny, small freshmen getting thrown around by the big guys. And after our freshman year, that's cool. After our freshman year, he got bigger, man. He was like $150 soaking wet his freshman year. He bulked up a little bit, gained the freshman 15, got that creatine going. And, man, he was quicker than quick. He started running routes well. He started playing well in practice. And at the end of fall camp, right as we're getting ready to start the season, we have our team meeting. And everyone in there, we're all excited, like we just got done past the hardest time of the year. And the coach is up there. He's going through the schedule, and you can tell he's kind of like skipping by it pretty quick. And this isn't typical of this coach. He wasn't one that really was super ecstatic all the time. But he couldn't wait to get to this last slide that he was waiting, because on the last slide he said, hey, Stanley Berryhill, you're now on scholarship. And, man, we just went wild. We went wild. We're like, yes, this is our Stanley. This is our guy. He's on scholarship now. This was before NIL, okay? We didn't have the crazy money like these guys do today, okay? Tyler, ridiculous. And, man, we were going crazy because Stan, man, he was a Tucson guy. He didn't come from a lot of money, and so he had this huge burden in his life of paying for college. And these coaches, they were so excited to lift this burden from his life and just let him play. And it made me happy, too, because I'm like, man, this gives a guy right next to me. And now, he made it to the NFL for a year. Man, he really had an awesome career here at Arizona. It was so awesome to see him get that burden lifted off his shoulders when they told him he had a scholarship. I think Jesus was thinking the same thing when he saw Zacchaeus. He saw Zacchaeus and he goes, man, this is a guy who's burdened. He's living burdened. His heart is hurting. He may have the power right now. He may have the money, but man, he's hurting. And Jesus knew, I've got the cure for you, dude. I got the cure, and I can't wait to tell you. That's why he says, I must go to your house. That's what's awesome about Jesus, because he didn't wait for him to finish his talk and come after him. He went straight to Zacchaeus. He initiated with Zacchaeus. And that's the thing, even today, man, Jesus initiates with us. Jesus initiates with every single one of us. However you got here tonight, whether it's someone inviting you, whether you saw an Instagram post, whether your heart just told you, hey, I should go to late night, man, that is Jesus initiating with you to want to know you. That's what I love about Jesus. God does not force us to have a relationship with him. He never does. But he always takes the first step, whether we see it or not. So let's keep going. Let's see what happens after Jesus says, hey, I must come to your house, Zacchaeus. So it goes like this. So he hurried and came down and received him joyfully. And when they saw it, they all grumbled, he has gone to be the guest of a man who is a sinner. Zacchaeus was joyful to receive Jesus. He was like, hey, please come down to my house. Hey, why don't you come on over? I'll cook something up. We got a late plate waiting for you already. I'm ready. Whatever you need, I got you. I smash burgers. Zacchaeus was ready to host this guy and talk to him and just share his life with him. Excuse me. He was pumped. And you know what's crazy is the Bible, it doesn't say what conversation happened during this meeting, during this dinner time. We don't know exactly what they said, but I have a pretty good guess, just based on Jesus' track record and based on how Zacchaeus responds afterwards. And I think it was the gospel message. You see, Jesus, when he first comes on the scene, it's in Mark chapter 1, verse 14. He says, repent and believe in the gospel. And all throughout the scriptures, it talks about Jesus proclaiming the gospel, proclaiming the gospel. You might have heard that word before, the gospel, the gospel. What is the gospel? Man, to simply put, the gospel message is that God created a perfect world. And I can imagine Jesus telling Zacchaeus this broken, hurt man. And I can imagine Jesus saying, hey, God created this perfect world where man and God were united perfectly. Both man with each other, fellow humans, and even the world, nature, everything was perfect. And then man sinned against God, and it was broken. Sin entered the world, and now there's brokenness. And we see the effects of the brokenness in this world. We see the awful things. We see the corruption. We see the violence. We see hatred. We see depression. We see things that just, they shouldn't be as they are. I mean, I just know that that wasn't God's original design. And so God sees people hurting, people needing something in their life. They need to get reconnected back to God. And he says, hey, you know what? I'm going to help them do that. I'm going to come down myself, God in the flesh, and I'm going to reconcile people back to God. And so Jesus, man, he came because there was a justice, a price to be paid for sin. But then he also wanted to bring people back to God. So that's why when you hear people say Jesus died on the cross for sins, that's what it's talking about. It's paying the price, but also bringing us back to God. And now he tells people, hey, believe in me, believe in what I say, and now repent and just start following me. Don't worry about trying to figure everything out on your own or live your own way. Hey, just follow me, and you will have eternal life. That is life to the full, both in this life and forever in heaven with God. Pretty amazing message. It's a message that people have literally died to share. And I think Jesus shared this message because look at what Zacchaeus does after their dinner. And Zacchaeus stood and said to the Lord, behold, Lord, the half of my goods I give to the poor, and if I have defrauded anyone of anything, I restore it fourfold. And Jesus said to him, today salvation has come to this house, since he is also a son of Abraham. Eternity changed for Zacchaeus in one day. His heart for his people that he betrayed just his whole life earlier changed in one day. Man, his life trajectory forever changed because of one day where Jesus initiated with him. Do you think this still happens today? Do you think people's lives can change so radically just because of one conversation about Jesus' gospel message? I'm telling you, it does happen. It happens every single year. It happens every single semester, and I've seen it in the lives of the students here in this room. I think about my guy, Ryzen. If you know Ryzen, he's right here in the front. Big fella, giant calves, bigger thighs, great personality. But man, Ryzen, he came to college, or really before that, he grew up the son of a military family. You know, he never lived in America growing up. Isn't that wild? He never lived in America. He was always in foreign countries. His parents, neither of them were religious by any means. They had no background in Christianity. They didn't teach him any Christianity. And so when he comes to college, he wants to fit in. He wants to find a group. And so he dives into partying. He dives into smoking weed. He dives into just being accepted however he knows how to do it. But then he meets a coworker named Austin. Big dude, but even bigger heart for people. Austin starts initiating these conversations about Jesus and faith with Ryzen as they work together at the rec. And Ryzen at first, man, he kind of gives him the stiff arm. Y'all seen it before. Like, hey, I'm kind of good. I'm going to keep doing my thing. But Austin, man, he still loves him. And he asks him every couple of days, every couple of weeks, and sees if anything's changed. And eventually, Ryzen starts being a little receptive to it. And some of Austin's friends share that gospel message that I shared with you just before. They share it to Ryzen. And Ryzen says, man, this is something that I want to go all in for. I want to change my life. I want to repent, and I want to believe in Jesus. And he does a little over a year ago today. And if you were to look at Ryzen's life before and Ryzen's life now, man, it is night and day. It is a complete difference. That is what the gospel and Jesus does to people's life. And all that started because one Jesus follower decided to start initiating faith conversations with Ryzen. There are people in your life seeking to know Jesus you would never expect. There are people in your life who are seeking to know Jesus you would never expect. Who is going to be the one to start the conversation about Jesus? Who's going to be the one to just open that door for conversation and say, hey, I don't know if you ever thought about this or not, but if you did, hey, I'd love to talk about it. Who's going to be the one to take the initiative in that friend's life? Will you be that leader? Jesus summarizes his life mission in this last part of the story. It's Luke 19, chapter 10. It says this: "For the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost." Jesus is saying, hey, what happened here today, seeing Zacchaeus go from a tax collector who's hated by his whole community, who just wants nothing to do with people, he wants to follow Jesus, sell whatever he has to make things right, and start following Jesus. Hey, what happened today, a lost person becoming a son, that's what I came on earth to do. That's my mission. That's what Jesus wants his life to be about. The Son of Man came to seek and save the lost. To seek and save the lost, that was Jesus' mission in life. To follow Jesus is to share his mission, to seek and to save the lost. And we do that. We seek the lost by initiating with those who don't know about Jesus, and we help save them by sharing the gospel message that helps save us. Leaders take initiative. Will you be the friend that loves others enough to open the door for a conversation about Jesus? Because you have people in your life right now who are seeking to know who Jesus is that you would never expect.